is, unseen by most, an underworld. A place that is just as real, but not as brightly lit. A dark side.
Can you give me an evil laugh, John?
Like what? You want the count?
I don't know, just an evil
One.
No, that's not evil. We need
That
to
better?
work. We need to. Yeah, that's better. I still think we need to work on our evil laugh. Welcome to the Armchair Fantasy Football Podcast. Do I sound like a vampire?
You sound like the count.
Oh, yeah. Well, he was a vampire.
He was.
Welcome to Takes from the Dark Side. Today, John, we're going to talk about some takes that we might have had in the off season that not so good.
No, not so good.
Not so good. They were bad takes. They were takes from the dark side. But to every yin there is a yang. So next week we're gonna our Wednesday episode is Told You So. So that's the episode where we're gonna talk about how we did such a great job with our takes. But takes from the dark side is all about the crappy takes that we had this off season that really haven't helped you in your fantasy league, and we're gonna be accountable for that today, John. We're gonna be held accountable.
Oh, I'm held accountable. My roster shows it.
With our Halloween special takes from the dark side. But as I said before, welcome to the Armchair Fantasy Football Podcast, the one and only working class podcast. We are the Blue Collar Ballers, John and DJ. Check us out on our Facebook page at Armchair Fantasy Football, on Twitter at Armchair FF Pod. I'm on Twitter at Armchair Kingpin. John is on Twitter at John2977. You can email us at armchairfb@gmail.com. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and Podbean, although, John, you need to get Spotify fixed. You can find our videos on YouTube. Just search Armchair Fantasy Football Podcast, and away you go. Let's get to the news. Trade deadline day. Not only is it Takes from the Dark Side Day, only are we right on the eve, All Hallows Eve, but it's also trade deadline day. Has come and gone officially as we record here at 5:21 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and not much has happened, John.
No, nothing really.
There was some exciting stuff bubbling up, but much is the case with the NFL trade deadline. It is not as exciting as the MLB or the NBA trade deadline. Historically, not much happens when the NFL deadline comes around in terms of trades. So what do we got for news?
Raheem Mostert not practicing today because of his quad, and either is Matt Breida because of his ankle.
Matt, I think you need to rest this week. I think.
Of course you'd say that because you're playing me with him. So
I think it's important, Matt, that you're good to go for the rest of the season.
No.
Tevin Coleman's doing a great job.
I'm going to go for the fourth string running back, if need be. I will pick up Jeff Wilson Jr. and he will vulture those touchdowns.
Maybe. It's a possibility. You do get lucky like that.
So that's my backup plan.
Well, John and I've been heckling John, which means I'm probably going to lose. But just to put it into perspective, John, this is the squad that John will be facing this week. He will be facing Aaron Rodgers, Ezekiel Elliott, Leonard Fournette, Juju Smith-Schuster, Devontae Adams, George Kittle, and Josh Jacobs. That's what John's looking at this week. So I'm assuming if Devontae Adams is playing. Who knows if he is or not. But that's some tough sledding for John. But John did beat me with the flukiest win of all time in the history of fantasy sports in week 1. So I told him I circled week 8. Week 9? What week are we in?
9.
That's what I said. Week 9. I circled week 9 on the calendar. And I was going to be coming for him. And I'm not done. I might make a blockbuster deal. I got my eyes on Julio Jones, John. So payback's coming.
Well, wait and see.
What else you got?
Marquise Lee for the Jacksonville Jaguars sent to IR.
Yeah, I saw Marquise Lee sent when I read the news. I'm like, ooh, a trade. No. It just went to IR. And it wouldn't have been that exciting of a trade.
No,
anyway.
he has not done much this year. Injuries hindered him, and then on top of that, he's just fallen behind on the depth chart.
That's a shame.
Oh, some more good news for my team. Chase Edmonds did not practice. Either has David Johnson, and Kenyon Drake will have a manageable workload. So,
What does that mean?
I think it means it depends on.
I am a bit confused.
I think the confusion is there is no confusion really. I think it's because he doesn't know the playbook.
But he's a running back.
But it's Cliff.
Here's the playbook. Yo, here's the ball. Run that way.
But Kingsbury's offense is very high paced.
It is, and there's a lot of passing to be had by the running backs in that.
I'm not.
I mean, you got to have a quick learning curve here, John, because if Edmonds doesn't play, Zenner looked like trash. If Edmonds doesn't play and DJ doesn't play, it's going to be the Kenyon Drake show this week.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a mix of Kenyon Drake and Zach Zenner. I hate to say it, but I think that's what it's going to be because I don't think he knows Kingsbury's playbook. It's just very dynamic. So I don't know how much he's caught up to speed on that, but that'd be the only thing to hold him back this week. But I guess wait and see what else they release for news on this.
Okie doke.
Speaking of a bad birthday, it's Andy Dalton's birthday, but you get a great birthday gift from the Bengals. After 9 seasons, they are going to bench him, and Ryan Finley will get the start.
Ryan Finley.
Ryan Finley.
I really wish it was Sheriff Driscoll, but he's not on the team anymore. Yeah, I mean, why
Ryan Finley.
It doesn't really.
Sounds like a wrestler's name.
Ryan Finley. Whatever.
He's that quarterback,
Irish.
Ryan Finley.
I don't know what that was, but anyway, why not? Honestly, Andy Dalton is. I mean, probably the death blow to that franchise. I mean, it hasn't been that stellar of a franchise throughout the years as it is.
Well, there was speculation that they were trying to trade Dalton before the trade deadline. I don't think anybody bought him. But it looks like he'll probably be
surely you jest.
A cut candidate in the offseason. And from what beat reporters are reporting, Ryan Finley is getting the start because they want to see what they have at the quarterback position. So if Finley comes out the rest of the season as trash, they know that they're probably going to use their first pick on a quarterback.
I did hear some teams were injured at the the janitor position, so maybe Andy Dalton would have drawn some interest there, but that's about it.
Him and Baker.
I mean, they gotta see what Finley's made of, and I joked about how I got Dalton to fill in for Rodgers against on his bye because he would have played the Raiders, but maybe I just grabbed Finley. I mean, you can't be any worse than Dalton, right? Does this hurt Tyler Boyd's value, in all seriousness, or Joe Mixon's? It can't really hurt Joe Mixon's.
To be honest, I haven't seen nothing from this Finley kid, so I don't know.
And sorry to cut you off, but I've heard that AJ Green is back week 10.
That's what they're saying.
So that could be interesting.
They also said he was supposed to be back a couple weeks ago.
Well, him and Devontae Adams are, playing footsies with each other out there in the sideline. So. But Devontae, I'll be happy to have you back.
To be honest with you, Finley's brand spanking new. I don't know what to expect from him.
He is a rookie this year, right?
Yeah. I believe so.
Yeah, because they have Sheriff Driscoll last year.
He's new to the team, so I don't know what he's going to bring. I've never seen this kid play, so...
I'll tell you guys, and I've told you guys before, and I'll tell you again, if there is a quarterback change, go get the guy that's going in there, because you never, ever know. This guy could be a league winner. You just never know.
He could. That's what I'm saying. I'm not going to say he's going to be bad because we haven't seen anything from him. He could come out this week and light us up for 40 points. I mean...
So I'll tell you what they're doing. This doesn't bode well for Andy Dalton any way you shake it. This is exactly what this is all about. Andy Dalton's not going to be our quarterback next year. We need to see what Ryan Finley's about because we're going to have pick number 1 or number 2, and we need to determine if we need to use it on a quarterback. That's all this is.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll see. I'll be looking at Ryan Finley. That's for sure.
In Pittsburgh, James Conner hurt his shoulder last night.
Matter of fact, I'm going to make that claim right now, John.
It was talks that he probably had a broken clavicle, but it is a bruised AC joint. He will be limited to start practice this week, but he still has a chance to play. But Mike Tomlin also said that Jalen Samuels is ready to go if Conner cannot.
Yeah, we have Conner, we have Samuels. That's how we roll. So hopefully you guys did the same thing too. Looks like he might play Conner, that is. But always handcuff your top backs. Always.
And like I said, news is light other than kicker news, which we don't talk about. Joe Flacco is going to probably be out 5 to 6 weeks with that herniated disc in his neck, and Brandon Allen will start.
Yeah, he's probably happy that he's out because he doesn't seem to be happy on that team. And who was it that's coming in?
Brandon Allen.
So what's the deal with Locke? Is he just not ready?
Well, he was hurt.
I know he was hurt, but I heard that he might be ready to go soon. Obviously not.
Yeah, not this week. I think it's probably the week or the week after. I mean, his injury during the preseason would cost him this time. So, I mean, Locke would be the next man up, but with the injury and everything, it's
I'm
going
with
to
you.
be Brandon Allen.
All right, exciting stuff. Is that it for news?
That's it for news, like today.
All right, before we get into the takes from the dark side, I want to take a moment to mention our GoFundMe page at www.gofundme.com/armchair-fantasy-football-podcast. We'll be throwing a link out today on Facebook and Twitter. If you guys could support us by making a donation, then sharing it with your network, we would greatly appreciate it. We know that money can be tight, so if you like what we're doing, please know that even $5 helps us get us closer to our goal. Let us know if you have any questions. We'll be happy to answer them. Help the Working Class Podcast to continue to provide great content and keep the blue-collar baller dream alive. We sincerely appreciate it. If you can just share our GoFundMe page, posts, and tweets, that would be great too. So, you want to start with you? You want to start answering for yourself, or do you want me to go first?
I don't care either way.
This is Takes from the Dark Side. This is John and I being accountable for our actions and what we have told you to do or not do in fantasy football. And I don't think there's any better place to start, John. Than Mr. You Suck himself, Kirk Angle, a.k.a. Kirk Cousins, John. This was your guy, just in case you were wondering. What do you have to say for yourself?
Well, he's not top 3 like I thought.
that was the take. Yeah,
He is top 10, though.
he is.
So, as long as you don't play him when I play him,
Wait,
you're
he's
fine.
top 10. Yeah, but top 10 doesn't mean anything in the NFL.
No, I mean, but he is. I'm looking at the rankings here. He's still in the top 10, but it doesn't matter. Kirk Cousins has been a huge disappointment, regardless of coaching or not. Some of it is his responsibility, and Redskins was a perfect matchup that he should have feasted, and he did not. So, Kirk Cousins, I was totally wrong. So,
well, Kirk Cousins also affects one of my guys that I'm going to have to be held accountable for shortly here, and maybe we'll go right to him next. But Cousins, I mean, when we look back, John, and it's easy to play armchair quarterback, as they say, but when you look back, Cousins was very underrated, and that's kind of, I think, what you based your take on. Was he was very underrated. He had two elite receivers. It's hard to get one on your team, but to have two is pretty impressive. They thought they'd have a good foundation with the run game. I think we all thought that. What we didn't factor in, John, was how much they really would run the ball. And this team said they wanted to be a running team, but his attempts, John, in week 1, he didn't get hurt. He wasn't hurt, right? Week 1,
no,
he was out there.
Wasn't. He was out there and everything.
Okay, so just to clarify that, he had 10 attempts. 10 attempts in week 1. That's it. I would have thought he went out in the first quarter if that was the case. You have quarterbacks throwing 50-something passes in the league, and Kirk Cousins had 10 attempts. In week 3, he had 21 attempts. In week 5, he had 27 attempts. They ran and ran and ran and ran and ran some more. You want to talk fantasy points, John? Week 1, 14.32. Thank God he threw that touchdown, right? Week 2, 8.9. Week 3, 12.5. Week 4, 7.32. These are quarterback numbers. If I see those numbers, I'm like, man, my receiver better get better or he's going to get cut. That's what you're looking at. And then recently he's picked it up against a great matchup against the Giants, 20 points. Against Philadelphia, another great matchup, 27 points. And of course, this last week, week 7, he had 29 points. Another great matchup against Detroit. Week 8, great matchup against Washington. And nothing happened. 11.6. Mr. Inconsistency with Kirk Cousins. Where did it go wrong? Do you think it was just their emphasis on the run?
It's both. He just doesn't look comfortable, I think. I think he just seems out of his sorts. I mean, his completion percentage is high. Yeah. But the problem is he's not turning any of these throws, or his third down completions haven't been good as well. I mean, can't use sacks as an excuse because he literally has not been sacked that many times other than the Chicago game where he took 6 sacks.
Yeah.
A sack here and there is nothing, but he's not running like he used to.
To be fair, too, in the Washington game, great matchup. He did throw 285 yards, which isn't terrible. Just didn't throw any touchdowns.
But he didn't convert. I was going to say
Right,
he didn't convert any touchdowns. So.
My take on Kirk Cousins, and I think
You suck?
I don't think he sucks. I would love to think that he does, just to keep pushing it to you and say, nice job, John. But he doesn't suck. I really don't think he does. And I think a big part of the problem for Kirk Cousins, John, was they ran some more, and it really killed his confidence, I think. And the other problem was, John, he and Diggs and Thielen really couldn't get into a rhythm because they weren't getting the reps. They were getting more reps in practice than they did in the game.
And this week, with Thielen, this past week when Thielen was out, I wonder if that affected his game a little bit. I mean, Diggs kind of feasted a little bit, but could he have had those touchdowns if Thielen was there? Another red zone target, but shoulda, woulda, coulda.
So I guess the question you ask yourself now is, does it get better? I'm going to tell you it doesn't. Because this week they have Kansas City, John. Pretty good matchup. I think he's a startable asset this week. But then the week after, they have Dallas, and then Denver. Those are both really tough matchups. They're on the bye week 12. Week 13, they have Seattle, which isn't a really difficult matchup. It's not terrible. But then it's Detroit with another great matchup. And then, in week 15 and 16, the last 2 rounds of fantasy playoffs, the Chargers and Green Bay. So his schedule doesn't get easier, it gets tougher. It's a lost year for Kirk Cousins, in my opinion, at this point. What do you think?
Unless he pulls off a miracle we don't see. I mean, it's sometimes these guys will exceed their matchup ratings sometimes, and I just don't see it though. I mean, I get Detroit, that game, he should have a great game, but Seattle's not horrible, they're not great either. But then he faces an LA Chargers team that is good against the pass and good against quarterbacks. Green Bay's been pretty consistent. They actually start off as one of the best teams against the pass, and then Chicago is still Chicago, regardless of if they're not the same team they were last year. They also had 6 sacks on them, so I mean, at this point, this might be the last week I ever start him if I do, but it doesn't look like I'm starting him this week.
All right. Or maybe only a couple of times the rest of the season.
I'm starting Minshew against you. They're playing Houston.
Gunter, I know. He should have a good game.
They're awful against the quarterbacks.
They are. Hopefully they step up in this divisional game.
Oh, no. I'll get negative 85 on this one.
Oh, jeez. Here we go. Where does it always rain on me? You talk about the luckiest guy in fantasy football.
I should.
Homeboy scores like 90 points.
I should play Cousins this week. I don't know why. You have that gut feeling that someone's going to go off.
Yeah.
And their matchup's not there, and then you look at the guy who does, like Minshew on paper now, has a wonderful game against Houston this week.
Yeah.
And without J.J. Watt.
Yeah.
But it just scares me when it's so nice of a matchup.
It is a good matchup. But Gunter had a good matchup the week before, too, and didn't do very well.
Against
so
Cincy.
You just never know. Yeah. All right, so next we'll move on to me. We're going to take the heat off John a little bit. And there's a guy that I was down on. I said, basically, this guy is Tyler Lockett. That's it. That's all he is. His comp is Tyler Lockett. And everybody drafts him like his comp is Julio Jones in an 8. Well, I might have been a little wrong there, John. I might have rushed to judgment a little bit on one T.Y. Hilton this year. And to be honest with you, not only was I down on T.Y. Hilton, but that was when Andrew Luck was the quarterback. Paris Campbell was there, Eric Ebron, Jack Doyle. They got, who's the dude from Carolina? Devin Funchess was there. So there's just this influx of receiving talent. Naheem Hines. And when you look at T.Y. Hilton's history, he never caught a ton of passes. And he never caught a ton of touchdowns. He was an 80-catch guy at best. And, I think his best year, he might have got double-digit touchdowns. Typically, it was 6 to 7. So I was down on him with Luck, and then Luck retired and then Jacoby Brissett. And I'm like, no way, there's no way you're touching T.Y. Hilton. Not happening. This is the worst thing that could ever happen. And then he comes out week 1 and scores 28.7 PPR points. 9 targets, 8 receptions, 87 yards, 2 touchdowns. I'm like, okay, that's a little fluky. Week 2, 14.3 points. Week 3, 20.5. Week 5, he went down to 7.7. Week 7 went up to 19.4, and Week 8 against Denver, Chris Harris down to 7.4. But a pretty darn good season so far.
Yeah, and he's got a nice matchup the rest of the season as well. He faces his worst matchup is Week 13 against Tennessee. All the rest in New Orleans, Week 15. Week 16 is Carolina, but he has some Week 9. He faces Pittsburgh this week, a great matchup. Week 10, Miami. Jacksonville, Week 11.
And then it just gets better with Houston in Week 12.
Yep, and then Week 14 he has Tampa Bay.
Tough thing is, the first week of the playoffs he has Tennessee, which could be a tough one.
What did he do Week 2 against them?
Oh, I'm sorry, that's the last week of the season. So the first week of the playoffs, he did well, to answer your question. First week of the playoffs he has Tampa Bay. So that's a good start to your playoffs. New Orleans, Carolina, not as good, Week 15 and Week 16, but I was wrong about T.Y. Hilton. And he's putting together probably going to be his best or second best season this year. How was I so far off on this, John? I mean, I crunched it as hard as I could.
Not necessarily was your fault in this. Funches went down. That changed the dynamics of the receiving corps. Paris Campbell hasn't worked out the way he should.
No. The chemistry's there between T.Y.
and Brissett.
And Brissett, yeah. There's some chinks in the armor lately. A couple weeks, 2 out of the last three weeks, less than 8 PPR points.
But is he 100% with that 25-pound bag of ice he had on his thigh, too?
Yeah.
We don't know how bad that was.
But again, John, with the schedule, it looks like he should put together a really solid year, provided that things stay the course. All right, I'm going back to you, man. Aaron Jones.
Oh, was I wrong?
Aaron Jones. You said that Aaron Jones was going to be in a timeshare. You were worried about Matt LaFleur.
Oh, he's still in a timeshare. He's just exceeding that timeshare.
You were worried about the touchdowns, that they don't get touchdowns. You were worried about everything. You were worried about Jamal Williams, or you were worried about everything. And Aaron Jones is having a pretty good season for himself.
Yeah, Jamal Williams is still being used.
Jamal Williams is definitely a factor. Yeah, you weren't wrong about that.
I mean, it's still a timeshare here. I don't know if Aaron Jones is playing. What's the word I want to use? Playing
for his job
all the time, and he's just playing better. But he has definitely taken this to a whole new level.
But let's be realistic too. He's had 2 really big games. He has.
Yes, Week 5 against Dallas and Week
8 against Kansas City.
Yep.
He had 34.6 fantasy points in Week 8, and not that that's not monstrous, but an even more monstrous 42.2 against Dallas. Other than that, Week 1 was rough. Week 6 was rough. He had 3.9 points and 4 points in Week 6, 3.9 in Week 1, so basically 4 points those 2 weeks. And then Week 2, 21. Week 3, 14.3. Week 4, 11.8. In Week 7, 14.3. So most of his weeks are middling RB2 numbers. But he's really popped in the last 4 weeks. He's popped in 2 really stud-level numbers.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that concerns me here, with Devontae Adams coming back, Aaron Jones has seen the highest target share
I'm
here.
glad yes. That's a good point.
I still think, I know he started off the season, but what is it now? Adams has been out 4 straight weeks.
Yeah.
Does his value go down because Adams coming back? Adams is the number 1 there. He is the number 1 target for Aaron Rodgers.
I think his targets come down. I don't know how much his value comes down because, again, you got to look at it in a vacuum. And in a vacuum, he's only had 2 huge weeks. So I think he's going to stay the course, especially given the schedule he's got coming up, John. The Chargers, Carolina, the Giants, Washington. Chicago hasn't been as good against the run as they have in the past. One really tough matchup, Week 12, was San Francisco, but outside of that, it's pretty fair and favorable matchups. So I'm scared because Ernie has Aaron Jones, and, he's doing pretty well. And Week 16, also, Minnesota's a tough matchup. But Jones has some pretty good matchups this year. I think he could finish, if the usage stays the same, I think he'll definitely finish as a top 10 running back. But like you said, I really feel like Adams is going to siphon some of those targets because Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones, I feel like, are the best receivers on the team, not named Devontae Adams. And they're not even receivers.
Geronimo Allison has not lived up to his hype.
Right. And another concern you had was that Rodgers just passes on the goal line every time. Well, he didn't at the beginning of the season, which was kind of shocking. And now he is, but he's throwing it to Aaron Jones.
Yeah, he's just dumping it. Aaron Jones is just in the right place at the right time, and like I said, his target share since Devontae Adams went out, he is the number one target on that team.
But if you look, John, the last couple of times that Jones is down, Jamal is way up.
Yep.
So it's kind of ebbing and flowing between the two.
So LaFleur actually, his timeshare is actually working out there. So I was wrong, completely wrong.
Yeah, well, you know who I was wrong about, and I'm still not ready to. I'm not ready to take my medicine on this one. I think it's a load of rubbish. But I was wrong about. I guess I was wrong about Chris Carson. I guess I underestimated Chris Carson's schedule. It was a very easy schedule, and maybe I overestimated, John, the ability, not the ability to play, but the ability of Rashad Penny to get some sort of chance. So you're telling me there's a chance? No, there's not. There's not a chance for Rashad Penny. I mean, just this last week, once again, Rashad Penny was more efficient than Chris Carson. And it's pretty clear, John, that Pete Carroll just likes Chris Carson as a person more than he likes Rashad Penny, because Rashad Penny is still a better player, and I'm not backing off from that. Rashad Penny, John, his yards per attempt, 5 yards per carry. Would you agree that that is an elite number?
It is.
5 yards per carry is an elite number. Chris Carson, once again, less efficient, 4.1 yards per carry. A full yard per carry less. Why is Rashad Penny not getting an opportunity here, John? And I know he's banged up for a little bit there, but dude was basically a healthy scratch 2 weeks ago, and he is performing from an efficiency standpoint better than Chris Carson. Does this make any sense to you? And I know you're a Chris Carson guy, but does it make any sense to you?
Yes and no. We don't know. We're not inside the organization. We don't know how Penny has been with the coaches. We don't know if there's. I'm not saying there's been disciplinary action here, but we don't know if he's on the hot seat there or not. There was talks of him possibly being traded,
and he should have been.
But the volume-wise, you look at his volume compared to the Carson. He does. He is efficient when he gets the ball, but I don't know his learning curve with Carroll. Like you said, is it a personal thing with Carroll? But those weeks he missed being injured did not help his cause at all. He actually had a chance to.
Never seemed to hurt Chris Carson all the times he was hurt.
Chris Carson hasn't been hurt this year, though.
Not yet.
No,
but I'm not talking about that. We're talking about historic events. And Chris Carson has been hurt and then comes back and get the usage. Rashad Penny's a first-round talent that is running for 5 yards a carry, John. And it's actually 5.1. And last year he ran for 4.9. Those are elite. Like, I just don't understand why Pete Carroll would not tap into that. I just don't understand.
That's what I'm telling you. I don't know what's going on in the organization.
But until then, Chris Carson is about as valuable a fantasy asset as it gets, because he's getting guaranteed usage, John. So if he's on your team, you're not complaining by any stretch of the imagination. But it continues to drive me utterly insane that Rashad Penny is not getting the usage. And Rashad Penny's a good pass-catching back too, John. I just don't get it. I don't get it.
Well, I can tell you this, though. Chris Carson's schedule does not get easy. At all.
No, it doesn't. It gets harder. But he does have for the season, it's pretty easy schedule. At least it was leading into the season. So that we should have seen that coming. But things change. Defenses are better than you expect them to be. I mean, Tampa's a good run D, and nobody really expected that.
But they're one of the worst pass Ds. I mean, you don't expect that either.
And then he gets San Francisco, and then Philly's a decent run D, and then Minnesota's a good run D. So he's got 4 games, one right after the other here, John, that are pretty tough. And we'll see what he's really made of. But again, I go back to, I mean, even the fumbles, John. Dude fumbled 3 games in a row and didn't get... Nope, Pete Carroll, nothing to see here. I'm going to chew my gum and watch Chris Carson get every reception and every carry. It really makes me mad, John. All right, I got to stop talking about this. Pete Carroll. Look at my boy Chris Carson out there. All right, I'm done. Amari Cooper. He good. I told you he good. And you're like, oh, I don't know. He's got foot issues. He dropped a lot of passes in Oakland.
You gotta take bold takes, and I'm sorry, but
you were down. You faded him. This was not a hot take episode. You faded Amari Cooper.
Yeah.
Shame on you for fading Amari Cooper.
I'm sorry, but plantar fasciitis is not one of those things that just goes away immediately.
Well, apparently when you're a superhero like Amari Cooper, it does. Because this dude is... He and Zeke... Thank God for those guys. Those guys are the only reason this offense is anywhere near relevant. Dak is okay, and Jason Garrett's a dummy. You better represent and come correct on Amari Cooper, because that dude's the man. Bet you wish you had him on your fantasy team right now. So what went wrong with your take, John?
He just exceeded expectations. I can definitely tell you, even without Zeke, he is still the number one target there. He's seen the target share. I know his last 2 weeks haven't been stellar, but it's not horrible either. He has a safe floor. He is a safe wide receiver one right now, easily. Yeah. His target shares have actually really been there. His schedule, he does have a somewhat easy schedule the next 3 games, but will face four hard secondaries. And actually, I'll say 3. One can actually be beaten here, but he does face 3 hard secondaries in week 12 through 15.
But, I mean, Green Bay, good secondary, right? One of the best in the league.
Yeah.
I mean, rankings-wise, they're one of the best in the league because they got out and they've shut down teams and they've shut down opposing wide receivers. 42 points he scored against them, John. 42 PPR points.
And that was with a hurt quad, I believe.
Yeah, this dude destroyed Green Bay, one of the better pass defenses in the league. Obviously he beat up Miami too. He beat up New York. He's had some easy matchups. And he has struggled a little bit against the tougher secondaries, New Orleans and New York. The Jets, that is, beat him up pretty good. But this guy has been everything we thought. Everything I thought he would be. You're a little bit more reluctant. I understand where you're coming from. You know what I mean? Cooper had a great year last year, but if you look at his entire history, he has had issues with drops. He has had issues with motivation, it would seem. But I'd have a hard time being motivated with Derek Carr as my quarterback. But he's represented this year, John, and I'm sure you've definitely changed your tune on.
Oh yeah, he's like I said, he's a top 5 receiver.
So I'm going to blend this with your next one, John, Michael Gallup. Michael Gallup was a guy you were very high on. Hasn't happened yet. Again, we try not to talk about injuries too much, but I can guarantee you Juju Smith-Schuster's on my list. And he dealt with a major injury with his quarterback. So it does factor in. Michael Gallup, John, what do you think his outlook is for the rest of the season? Because so far this season it has not been good.
He's still a wide receiver too. He's still, even with Amari Cooper there.
Think Michael Gallup's a wide receiver too?
Yeah.
That's ambitious. What has he shown this year that would indicate that he is?
The 7 catches for 158 yards. The 6 catches for... He has a safe floor. His targets are
I just think a wide receiver... I look at him as a solid wide receiver 3. That's what I look at him as.
I guarantee I'm a year off because what is Gallup? Year 2?
Yeah.
He'll do better next year.
And you probably are. I will say this, John, in your defense, he really started strong out of the gate.
Yeah.
But then he got hurt, and he hasn't really been the same since he's come back.
He just had that 1 week against Green Bay. He had 14 targets, 7 catches for 113 yards and a TD, but his target share...
But then he got hurt, and he didn't really miss time, but he did get banged up prior to that game. He blew up that game, but then since then, I don't know if the injuries have been nagging.
Philly, how do you not put up a good stat against Philly? I just don't get that.
I mean, we both said he should be a really great start last week, 4 for 34 in that game. Against the Jets, 3 for 34 in that game. Against the Jets, 4 for 48. Not numbers you're looking for from a wide receiver too. So maybe it is that injury maybe is nagging him because he did start hot, but he has definitely petered off since then.
The good thing going from form here is that Amari Cooper will face probably the number 1 corner. So when they face a Minnesota, he's gonna go against, you know what I'm saying? Why can't I think of his name? The corner there.
Xavier
Rhodes.
Rhodes, yeah.
Detroit, Darius Slay. New England, Stephon Gilmore. So, I mean, and then you got Buffalo. So the good thing going here is that Cooper will see a lot of number one quarterbacks coming up, and that should help Gallup.
Yeah.
I would think.
I will tell you this too, and these are takes from the Darkside here after week 8, but there's still plenty of season left, so Gallup could turn it around. It's a definite possibility.
That team has a chance to have 2 1,000-yard receivers. He's at 421 right now. He could actually hit 1,000.
Yeah, and 1,000 yards aren't what they used to be.
No.
Still, to have 2 of them is a pretty good
on a team is really good. Yeah. I mean, Cooper should easily hit 1,000 yards.
All right, we're moving on to my next guy. This is very disappointing. This isn't even just disappointing, John. This is heartbreaking. I make connections with guys in our keeper league. I make connections with players, and I mean, you could even say I fall in love, and you're never supposed to fall in love. John's pointing to one of my guys that I'm in love with. He's the one that's still on my team. I'll give you that hint.
Oh, okay, there we go, right there.
Yeah, so I really like Stephon Diggs. I think Stephon Diggs is an elite wide receiver. I don't even think it. I know he is. And he's been a top 10 receiver the last couple of years, John. And this year, I didn't think it was going to be any different. As a matter of fact, I thought he was going to truly even break out further than he did last year. But it hasn't happened. I tie a lot of that to the one-dimensional offense of the Minnesota Vikings. I tie a lot of that to the underperformance of Kirk Cousins. So I'm kind of blaming you a little bit here.
Wow. Wow.
But no, I'm blown away. And I traded Stephon Diggs, and you guys don't understand what that means, but John does. For me to trade Stephon Diggs means I would have had to lose absolute all faith in him. All faith in him in order for me to do that. Like Juju. I will not trade. Juju is untradeable. As unrealistic as that is, Juju is an untradeable asset in that league for me because he's one of my guys. And Stephon Diggs was one of my guys. And it was so bad that I had to let him go into the wild. Into out of the nest, so to speak. He started off Atlanta, John, 5.7 fantasy points. He got targeted twice in that game. Out of the 10, so he got 20% of the targets, I guess, but out of the 10 attempts that Kirk Cousins threw, he got targeted twice, got both of them. Week 2 against Green Bay, 1 reception on 7 targets.
That's hot.
Caught a touchdown,
though.
So we got 9.9 PPR points. Week 3, John, Oakland, another great matchup, 4.5 points. Week 4, Chicago, actually a tougher matchup. You got 15.8. First 100-yard game of the season. Who would have ever thought Week 4 was going to be the first 100-yard game of the season for Stephon Diggs? Week 5, easy matchup, Giants, 7.4 points. And then I traded him. And then the next week against Philly, he got 43.5, then 21.3, then 19.3. I am still considering this a bad take on my part, John, just because of the way that season started. Some teams couldn't recover from... Stephon Diggs was a lot of teams' number 1 receiver, John.
Yep.
And you can't recover from that. And we can't say, oh, well, Thielen got all of it. Well, Thielen didn't perform all that well either out of the gate. This was just a bad passing offense, a non-existent passing offense, and it ruined what could have been a career year for Stephon Diggs. And for that, I apologize, guys. I never could have imagined that would be a take from the Ducks.
His reception is going to be low, but he's still on track for like 75 receptions and like 1,400 yards and like 8 TDs. He's not on a bad pace, but he's also going to play some hard defenses in there. Green Bay secondary, Chicago secondary again, which he torched. He's got some great. He's got Dallas secondary, Denver secondary, but a couple good key matchups in there: Kansas City, Seattle, Detroit.
I had a 2-headed monster as keepers, and a lot of times I'll trade sometimes my biggest asset just to get a bunch of picks for it, knowing that I still have a lot of other good players I can keep. So I was so excited about my wide receiver tandem, John. One side was Stephon Diggs, and you know the other side of that, right? Who was it? Juju Smith-Schuster. Loved both those guys. They were both guys that I connected with, and they're both been very disappointing thus far.
But Juju, you can defend Juju more
Yeah.
than you can Stephon Diggs.
Well, and I'm going to kind of defend Juju right out of the gate because I'm being a little harsh. Because if you look at his points, John, 13.8, 13.4, 17.1, 4.5, 18.5, 1.7, and 21.3. He's only had 2 bad games. And both of those games, John, were when Mason Rudolph first came out there and when, who was the other guy's name? The other quarterback.
Hodges?
Craig Hodges from the Chicago Bulls.
He
was, whatever.
Craig Hodges.
Whatever. When he started. So his first game with those 2 guys were his only 2 bad games of the season. So maybe I'm being a little bit harsh, but he definitely isn't going to hit the 200 target mark that I thought he might be able to, John. So I will ask you, as we stand today with no Ben Roethlisberger and with a whole lot of Mason Rudolph, is there a chance for Juju to turn this around, or does he continue to be a solid wide receiver 2 and not quite that wide receiver 1 that we had hoped for?
I think he's going to stay a wide receiver 2. He has a Buffalo matchup in Week 15,
which he may sit for on my team, honestly.
His matchups look good.
They're not bad.
He's got Cleveland, Cincinnati, but remember those are divisional rivalry games, so it could be different.
Yep.
All depends if Cincinnati's still in tank mode. The Jets, who knows what Jets defense is going to get in Week 16. Arizona in Week 14, but with Patrick Peterson.
Jets are pretty good against they give up a fair amount against receivers right now, so that could be helpful. I mean, one of those games. It's funny because Amari Cooper we talked about, he didn't do well against the Jets, but overall the Jets have been giving up a fair amount of points to wide receivers. So that's Week 16. That could be a great matchup.
I mean, he's not going to hit the 200 targets you projected, but Big Ben going out for the year kind of squashed those dreams.
And that kind of it doesn't erase it, but it kind of negates,
Yeah, like we said when we did these hot takes, an injury, and we're not saying injury to the player itself, but like obviously if Big Ben's throwing the ball instead of Mason Rudolph, it's a big change right there. That affects the whole dynamics of a player. I mean, if Juju could throw the ball himself, who knows? But
he's probably not bad.
But I mean, Juju is safe as a wide receiver too. He's seeing the target share there,
and he hasn't burned you to the degree that.
No. I mean, I'd like to see his touchdown upside a little higher, but it's not awful. I mean, 3 touchdowns. He'll probably still end up with like 6 or 7. But this is a guy we had, pegged for 10 touchdowns, like 1,400 yards. You're talking like Antonio Brown numbers there with Brown gone.
That's right.
But, I mean, Big Ben going out, and when we first saw Big Ben go out, we didn't expect him to be out for the year either.
True.
So, like I said, injuries affected him.
I agree with you. I think he's a solid wide receiver 2 rest of the season. So I'm going to give you some numbers, John. I'm going to tell you I'm going to ask you where you would draft this guy. Like, what running back, in terms of running back 1, running back 2, second round, 4th round, like where would you value this player? And I'm just going to give you points from week 1 to week 8. 28.9, 17.4, 11.6, 11.8, 13.8, 4.3, 17.8, and 7.3. These are PPR points. Where do you value a player like that? Basically double digits every week with 30-point upside almost and a downside of 5.
As a 1.
That's Derrick Henry.
Really? Really?
That's Derrick Henry, who you faded. Why'd you fade him? Let's be honest. We all know why.
Why did I fade him?
Yeah.
Because I had him last year. He did nothing. Nothing till week 11. Then the guy also goes off. Here's an interesting stat, too.
You'll see on the video, John, I thought was going to fall out of his chair when I said it was Derrick Henry.
Here's an interesting stat about Derrick Henry, too. So if he's putting up his career, I saw a thing today. I wish I would have snapshotted it. But Derrick Henry career yardage-wise average, September and October are worst months.
Really?
October is his worst month.
Well, he's had a couple of stinkers, 2 out of the last 3 weeks.
But he gets better as December, January is his best. He is amazing in January. So that explains why he did so well last year. But
when the heck does he play in January? This team hardly ever makes.
Well, you know what I'm saying. If they go into January, I'm just saying that based on that. But
well, I got news for you. He's got a few good matchups coming up. A couple this week against Carolina, and then week 10 against Kansas City. Then he's on a bye. Then it gets a little rough. It's getting a little rough sailing here, John. He's got Jacksonville in in week 12. Week 13, he has Indy, another tough run defense. Week 14, he has Oakland. Week 15, he has Houston. Week 16, he has New Orleans. So, red, I think, is the top 10. And every one of those defenses, their names are written in red.
Oh, okay. So I have...
From week 12 to week 16.
I still have a good chance of
So
being
you
right
still... I'm telling you there's a chance. But so far, you've been wrong about him.
Well, but you also got to remember, too, we're in a PPR league. Derrick Henry, what is his... I'm curious to see. I'm going to actually look it up.
Well, Derrick Henry doesn't catch a ton of passes, so the difference is negligible from PPR to standard, as they call it. For example, like week 1, he had one... he hasn't had more than one reception in any game.
Yeah, but he still has more targets this year than he did last year, I believe, out of the backfield.
That wasn't hard. Didn't he have,
No.
less than 20 targets last year?
He's got less than 20 right now.
Right, but well, it's,
No,
but you
no.
know what I mean. Like he only gets 1 or 2 targets, maybe 3 a game. So he's not really a factor in PPR.
Well-
which even speaks more to those numbers, John. I mean, those
They're eye-opening. He's seeing the like last year. The problem last year, he was not seeing the volume. Lefleur was so sold on Dion Lewis, and we will not go into Dion Lewis because I've never been a Dion Lewis fan, even when he was with the Pats. But
you didn't mind when he won you a Super Bowl.
that's fine. But these attempts, he did not see these attempts with me last year, and he burned me. He burned me bad, and it hurt. And I'm still hurt because now he's getting the attempts. But here's the difference, though, too. And I'll admit I was wrong. But Derrick Henry, what could help him even with these hard matchups is Tannehill at the helm instead of Mariota. Tannehill actually has looked good, and I think it could actually help Henry's game going forward with these hard matchups.
Yeah, I mean, with Tannehill, I don't know what week he went in there, but week 6 against Denver, Henry only scored 4.3 PPR points. Week 7 was a good week against LA, but then last week against Tampa, tough run D, only scored 7.3. So still haven't really seen enough with Tannehill to know if there's a big difference.
Didn't he have a total of like 8 touchdowns last year, and 6 came from 2 games, if I remember right? It was Jacksonville.
Yeah, and he's got 5 so far this year, and every single one of them was in a different game. He hasn't had any 2 touchdown games.
Yeah, no, but you know what I'm saying though. He had 8 last year.
He had 4. Most of them were in 2 games.
Yes, so
I think he had 5 touchdowns.
He's already
in 2
showing
games.
better consistency here.
Yeah, no, he's and maybe it's the new coaching, maybe it's the new offensive coordinator. You know what I mean? But he's been good this year.
And Mariota, I think he's just going to get better with Mariota out, but
I would probably agree with that. So let's move on before we take up too much time. I'm going to go to a tight end that I absolutely did not believe in this year. I heckled you guys all offseason, specifically Jake, because I did not believe in Austin Hooper because I'd never seen it from him. The only thing, John, I've ever seen from Austin Hooper is a big fat bowl of inconsistency. He would flash 2 or 3 times a year. In every single other season, every single other game during those seasons, John, he would be a complete disappointment. And this year, he has not been a disappointment. This year, he has been the tight end 1, I believe, to this point. If you look at 2018, he finished the season with 71 receptions, 660 yards. He's already at 591, John. He's already surpassed his season totals for 2017 and 2016. He has doubled his 2016 season total for receiving. This isn't a breakout year. This is like I said, it's almost like Zach Ertz took his tight end superpowers and transferred them to Austin Hooper. It's almost like you remember the movie Freaky Friday?
Yep, they just switched.
I think they just switched places, and all of a sudden, Zach Ertz's consciousness is in Austin Hooper's body, and Austin Hooper's consciousness is in Zach Ertz's body. Amazing! This is an amazing breakout. I got to hand it to the guy. And honestly, with Mohamed Sanu getting shipped off to New England, I don't know that he'll be better, but I think it'll actually stay the course. I think he'll continue this consistency. Last year, John, I think he had 3 games in double digits. This year, he only has 1 game in single digits, and that was week 2 against Philadelphia.
His target share is through the roof.
It's unbelievable.
His worst game is 5. 5 for targets. Other than that, it's been anywhere from 7 to 11, with an average of, I would say, about 7 a game, an average. Well, 7.5.
But you know what? I'm not happy about being wrong about Chris Carson, at least from a production standpoint. I'm happy about being wrong about Austin Hooper, because I'm a tight end guy, dude. I can see the renaissance or the breakout of the tight end position. Every year it gets a little bit better, and Austin Hooper is helping that continue.
Yeah, the last few years it stayed pretty consistent with the guys who were there. I think Kittle is the only big name to be consistent, but he still hasn't seen the touchdown volume. Well, that's because of also penalties, but
yeah.
You look at guys from last year that were in the top 5. Now you compare them, and it's a completely different bunch other than Kittle. Kittle's still in that top 5. I don't care what anybody says.
Oh, come on.
Yeah. Hooper.
I still think Kittle will finish better.
Yeah,
than
Hooper, Waller in there that weren't there last year.
Yep, it's great.
They're both exceeding expectations.
Yep, it's really moving the
and
needle
Zach
forward. Well, it's more like Zach Hurts right now. All right, you ready to move on?
Yep.
Congratulations, Austin Hooper. I am happy for you. You're gonna get responsibility for this one, John, but I think you know I was a big proponent of this guy too. Devin Singletary. You said no later than week 3 he would be the starting running back, and you know what, John?
He got hurt week 3.
I'm not gonna pick on you. Well, I mean that's irrelevant because I got news for you. It's going on week 9. He still ain't the starting running back.
Okay.
So what happened here?
Here's my take here. You figure Frank Gore. I figured Frank Gore's Frank Gore. Okay, he's been consistent through the years, but you would think, what is he? 35 going on 36, something like that. I would think
he's old. He's 36.
I would think by now that Gore would have just seen a plunge, because most running backs after 30 take a plunge, and Frank Gore has not taken the plunge. I was completely wrong here how they were going to use him. I was also completely wrong on his production here. Singletary, when he touches the ball, looks good, but he just hasn't seen that timeshare. So I don't know if it's a learning curve based on Singletary and then the injuries happening. He did not take it week 3, and Gore still is the starting back. I know he's sprinkled here and there, but he's still got that talent to at some point to take this, but it ain't happening week 3.
He really does. I'm not, we're not even getting hung up on the week 3 thing. Honestly, it just does not happen this year for Devin Singletary. Like you said, he was out with injury. But really, the games that he has played, John, he's been productive, but much like Rashad Penny, not getting the usage. This is a very similar, mind-boggling situation to what's going on in Seattle. We're talking about a guy that has been more efficient than the quote-unquote lead back, Frank Gore, but he's not getting the carries. He's not really getting the targets. I mean, week 1 he got 5 receptions on 6 targets, and then this past week he got 4 on 6 targets for 30 yards and a touchdown, but only 3 carries, 7 carries, 6 carries, 4 carries. That's just criminal, man. Buffalo is in contention right now, John. Buffalo has a chance to make the playoffs. I don't think they're going to go deep into the playoffs, but their best chance to do that is with Devin Singletary at the running back position, in a lead back role, getting a heavy workload. Hopefully that happens moving forward, because I'm a big fan of this kid. Big fan.
Yeah, he just hasn't seen the volume. So, I mean, like we've said before, when running backs start seeing the volume, look at Montgomery this past week. What a difference he was when he had the volume. So it's just a matter of time if...
Yeah, I mean, imagine what Miles Sanders would be with the volume.
Yeah.
These guys are all
volume.
Really good.
Running backs are usually volume. Melvin Gordon, look at him. He still hasn't seen that high ceiling of volume like he's used to. And some people just get better with volume. The biggest thing that can happen to help Singletary out would be a Frank Gore injury.
Yeah, and I think organically he's going to work into that lead back role, but obviously we don't wish injury upon these guys, but it's a shame. Frank Gore is in the twilight of his career. He should be a backup backup running back, just relaxing on the bench, going in there on maybe occasional third downs, or just, let's say Devin Singletary breaks a big run and needs a breather.
I saw the opposite load for Gore. I really felt like 8 carries, goal line carries, a change of pace back, and it's been the opposite.
Yeah. So you know what? We'll move on to the next guy, the last guy, the biggest, darkest take of all, and that's Justice Hill. Justice Hill was my take from the dark side, my biggest take from the dark side, probably all of our biggest takes from the dark side, other than Jake's Larry Fitzgerald take. But it was bad. It was bad, John. And here we are going into week 9. It looks worse. Maybe not worse, but still not good. It doesn't appear that Justice Hill has earned his spot, has earned his stripes in the Baltimore Ravens backfield, John. He is what we call a fantasy non-factor. He is what we call, John, not rosterable. The worst 2 words to ever be laid on any player on the planet is non-rosterable. And he's not. But the thing is, he's still really good. The problem is, he's going to need not only an injury to Mark Ingram, but possibly an injury to
Lamar Jackson.
Lamar Jackson. Well, yeah, I guess he's probably the leading rusher on the team. But Gus Edwards, he's probably going to need an injury to Gus Edwards as well in order to get any type of play. At this point, he's a deep league stash in a keeper league. He's a dynasty guy. And it's really sad because I thought he'd be a lot more than that, John. What do you think about Justice Hill? Is there no justice, John?
Justice Hill started off preseason really good. We saw of Justice Hill in the preseason. We're like, oh, this guy's going to be involved. First game against Miami, 7 attempts for 27 yards. Mm-hmm. And then after that, just disappears. 1 attempt here, 2 attempts here. He did see 5 in Cincinnati, but other than that, he's not even the change of pace back. He's the last resort. He's the time clock killer.
No.
And I wouldn't say they've had blowouts other than that first game. He hasn't seen the field much. So I think, barring an injury, he's going to need an injury to 1 or 2 of the people to be involved here. And with his talent, I think it's something, maybe not this year, but definitely in the future, like you said, Dynasty League, or possibly look at next year, roster could change. I don't see him getting involved this year unless a huge injury happens.
Yeah, it's pretty sad.
Yeah, he looked great preseason, but remember, it's preseason.
Anything else?
Well, that's all I got on Justice Hill.
You got anything for the listeners? Any Halloween tricks or treats?
Make sure you check your kids' candies. Please always be safe. Make sure your kids are, well, you shouldn't say be wearing bright colors, but keep an eye on them. So I have to work Halloween, which stinks, but...
Oh, I do too, but we have the evening off, right?
I don't. I'm like working.
Oh, that's right. Oh, yeah, I'm taking your kid with me.
Yes. So thank you for that.
Yeah, no problem, man. It's a pleasure. Kate, what's Caden going to be?
Right now, he's either going to be a football player or a boxer. He hasn't decided.
Okay. He needs to go with the boxer, because I know the football uniform he's going to wear, and I'm not going to walk around with him if he's dressed up.
So...
No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, so Scarlett is going... My daughter Scarlett is going to be Minnie Mouse. And my son Nigel is going to be a Christmas turd. Oh, wait, I mean... So he sends me this picture of his costume, and apparently it's a Fortnite gingerbread guy. Like a gingerbread man,
yeah,
or something
but
like that.
He does look like a turd. Well,
By the way, at the house I call it Fart Night because it drives me crazy. But yeah, so it's a Fortnite gingerbread guy. But he sends me the picture, and I send it back. I'm like, it kind of looks like a turd. Then he sends me the angry face emoji, and then I send him back, well, it looks like a Christmas turd. And he sends back, really, Dad? So we hope you guys all have a happy and safe Halloween. We're going to take you out with... We came in with the Tales from the Darkside song. I'm actually going to go out with one of my favorite Halloween songs, and it's because of the movie Beetlejuice. You remember the movie Beetlejuice?
Oh, wow. Love
John?
that. Actually, they're only number 2. I don't know if you knew that.
I've heard that.
Yeah.
I also I understand that there's a musical as well. Well, Beetlejuice is one of my favorite Halloween movies to watch, and this is one of my favorite songs from Beetlejuice, so we'll see you next time, guys. And don't forget to jump in the line. And we'll talk to you, Harry Belafonte. We'll talk to you tomorrow when we get ready for a weeknight. Happy Halloween.
See you guys soon.